Hello, my lovelies. How y'all doing today? So, this week, special Monster-Mash-Up. I'll tell you what, unlike my usual ones where I take two ideas and I mash them up together from two different people, whoever comments of whatever they want, wherever they see my drawing, whether Facebook, Instagram, here on YouTube. That's my usual recourse to things. This week is going to be special. This week, what I'm going to do is an actual contract, because I've had a few people ask me about that. Back in the day, I used to do some when I was live streaming. So this time around, I'm going to show an actual contract illustration. It's to somebody I've owed a drawing to for a little while now. And so I've decided to work on it this time, and I basically am doing a mashup. So I figured, hey, why not video tape the whole thing and talk about it while I'm doing it, because this is going to be way different than what I usually show off. It's not going to be a little sketch this time around. It's going to be a full blown out illustration, start to finish. Might be a little longer than usual, this video, but it'll be chock full of fun stuff. So for this week, we are going to be doing a monster mashup of Sailor Mercury and the video game Azur Lane as my concept. I specifically took the Northern Parliament and Sakura Empire and thought, what would it look like if Sailor Mercury was kind of made by these two factions? I was already a little far into my sketch before I came out with the fine idea of turning this into my monster mashup for the week. So bear with me here. There's a few things that are already done. However, I do make a lot of changes. You're gonna see in things like this that I rarely will just focus on one part of the drawing. I kind of jump all over the place, you know? Like once I have base outline of what I'm looking for, then, you know, like you see here, I'll start adding in more rigging to be like, oh yeah, I'll have arms that reach out and connect to our other parts. Then I scrapped that idea and I thought, oh, it might be cooler to maybe have like water or energy coming out through her connecting everything. This way it won't take up, there won't be too much going on the page. I wanted a nice background that kind of feels like she's on a planet, maybe not Earth, maybe Earth, we'll see. But it's gonna be very cold, like it's gonna have that Northern Parliament vibe. Those of you that don't know the game Azur Lane, it's a game with a bunch of boat girls. Like they're kind of like monster girls or robot girls, and Northern Parliament specifically represents the Russians, whereas Sakura Empire represents the Japanese. So basically I took a kind of like a bit from both of these people and put them together. I know that Mercury doesn't usually have a sword. I remember in the live action series once, at one point, randomly, she created like a water or an ice sword, and I thought it looked so cool that I thought I would throw it in here. That gives her a bit more of that Sakura Empire vibe too, because a lot of Sakura ships have swords. And even her torpedo bays that she has down by her, like her feet, those two are very Sakura Empire-ish. However, I made the torpedo loadouts feel a little more like the ones from the Northern Parliament, and same thing with her boat where I gave it like some teeth, and I'm going to put some ice on all of this. You can see here in the sketch that originally, for sketch, I had given her much larger breasts. They're still pretty big, but I did shrink them down a little bit. I just wanted it to feel a little more, I don't know, like, look, I know that Azur Lane really over-sexualizes their characters like there's no tomorrow, and I'm cool with that. I mean, I over-sexualize a lot of my characters, but for Mercury, I didn't want her to look like one of those, I just didn't want her to be that big, okay? So I shrunk it down a little bit. I'm gonna give her super sweet visor. I love that visor. I just thought it was cool in the show, and it would come out and it would show all these like little robot-y designs and things like that, and I was like, oh man, I love this. I would love to have glasses that could do that. Like when they came out, those Google glasses, I thought that was such a cool concept. But I guess the world just wasn't ready for them yet. They're crazy expensive, and I could picture people driving while wearing them. And I'm sure it happened, so anyway. I thought conceptually that was really cool. I gave her this kind of really like sprawled out open pose, where I want it to look like almost like she's kind of like maybe like coming to a stop. And so there's going to be tons of snow, tons of ice, tons of water everywhere. It's going to feel very cold drawing. I also made it so that like certain lines are blue. Those blue lines aren't on the same layer. A lot of times I'll draw like colored like lines all in the same layer. It doesn't matter. I'll just go over and fix it up afterwards. This time around, I decided to do it on a separate layer because I'm thinking of making it transparent. So I don't know yet what I'm gonna do, and it's better to think ahead of time than down the line be like, oh, I fused all my layers, but I want this to be transparent, so now I have to erase those lines without erasing the lines underneath it. Or, if it is transparent, the lines underneath it actually need to be erased a little bit, so that way they shine through, but not as strongly as like a solid black, you know? Like I want it to be a bit like see-through because you don't see the whole like leg, or you won't see the eyes completely because of the visor. So it's always good to plan out your illustrations. This way it saves you an enormous amount of time and things will look nicer than the line. Besides, it's only 1 layer or 2 layers extra. Like it takes up little to no space while you're working. When I color, I use a ton of layers, which is not always very good. It's just how I like to work in case ever I have to do modifications from back in the day, doing like bigger contract illustrations. So I would always make things very separated. So this way, if they were ever like, oh, change this or change that, it'd be very simple for me to do that. Now that I'm getting to work on doing the line art for the boat here, you can see I'm adding a lot of details, more details than were on my sketch, because a lot of times I'll sketch out what I'm looking for, and then when I start going in with the lines, I've been doing this for a long time, I kind of know where to go, I know which lines to follow, and then I know what to add, like adding rivets all over the place, like adding extra little lines around the teeth, or extra lines around the eyes, that sort of thing, you know? Like, I mean, even maybe the gun and the turrets and stuff, I'll modify them. Like, you'll see that a lot of times I'll turn off my sketch from the background, and that's basically so that when I'm doing my line art, when I'm filling in certain parts that I know aren't on my sketch, it won't mess me up, and I won't be like, oh, what am I doing here? There's all these lines here, what's going on? I just get rid of it so it looks clean, and I can think, okay, here's a bunch of negative space that I can fill in with detail so that this thing looks mechanical, like there's a lot going on. This was such a fun illustration to work on. It was really cool. Like I'd been wanting to draw an Azur Lane boat girl for a long time, and getting to fuse it with Sailor Mercury too is almost perfect, right? Because Mercury's all water, and that's just awesome. You can see also at the top, I mean, I already did this, but I have her little logo, and what I did is that her little logo at the top, I basically just made a copy, posted everywhere, changed the angles. This is working smarter over harder. Like, I'm not gonna redraw that logo everywhere on her. It needs to be consistent, and I need to cut time wherever I can. Another thing is too, like in my original sketch, I had the secondary boat coming out round down near her like stomach, but after trying it, I was like, I don't like this. I don't, like, it feels too tight. So pushing it further behind her head, I'm going to have more space for this. And I decided to keep those boats on a separate layer as well, on the off chance that I maybe want to lower down the lines or something so it pushes it back so that she pops out a bit more. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do. So, like I said, it's always good to work with multiple layers when you're doing line art, and this way you know for sure down the line, if you do need to make any changes or anything, you'll be able to do it easily, and it's not going to cost you hours and hours of work, because it's all about saving those hours for the next drawing. That's just how it is with illustration. And I know I put way too much detail in my stuff to begin with. I'm a little nuts with how I do things, but I really love doing it. I added that little S Mercury on the side tattoo there so that it feels a little more like robot boat girly. This was epic, but surprise, I'm not done. I still have to color this in. I have so much more left to do. So this is gasp, to be continued. So I guess I'll see you all next week for the continuation to this illustration, where you're gonna see me fill in the flats and do all the coloring, shading, highlight, all of that jazz. It's going to be awesome. This month on my Patreon, I'm sure my followers are gonna be pretty happy because they're gonna get one full blown out illustration. It's gonna be pretty epic. Have an awesome day and see you next time. Bye.